DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy. That is the energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one approach, one lifestyle, one way of living, it's a lot of different ways of thinking, but it's all under one umbrella. We got a book on this subject as well, and all of it's under this umbrella that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today we are going to talk KPIs. That's K is in kangaroo, P is in purple, I is in indigo, also known as key performance indicators. We're going to talk about how you actually measure your work. This is a really important topic for anyone in any field. I thought of this subject specifically with entrepreneurs and business people in mind, but this topic applies as well to if you're talking your personal development, if you're trying to lose weight, if you want to get better if you want to spend more time reading, I don't know if we could apply KPIs to spending time with your family or your kids, but you could if you want to go that route. If you're an athlete and you're working on your game in off season or in season, you need KPIs. This is how you measure your work. So anyone in any field, if you're doing some form of work, something that is requiring your time, effort, attention, and energy, those are your 5 forms of investment, which we talked about in episode 609, and you want a way to measure. You want to know, am I actually making progress here? How do I know if my work is actually working? The way that you do that is through this element we're going to talk about here today, known as your KPIs, your key performance indicators. Now, before I go further into this, let me remind you or inform you that I have a text message line where I want you to text me and tell me the most valuable insight you have gotten from today's masterclass. What are you going to do different based on what you heard here today? What was a question that you needed answered that I either directly or inadvertently answered through what I shared here today? Text me and tell me what it is. My number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Now, when it comes to KPIs, again, this is a topic that I've touched on many times, specifically, again, in the episodes where I've talked about entrepreneurship and how you're going to measure your work, how you're going to know if something you're doing is working, if it's not working, how you're going to know when to keep doing something and to do more of it, or when to just kill something off because it clearly is not producing the result that you want. But I have never done a full episode on this specific subject, so here it is here today. So I don't need to give too much more of an introduction here as we get into the points. You'll know everything you need to know. Point number one, the topic once again, KPIs, how you measure your work. First question is, you got to ask yourself, how are you going to measure your work? How are you going to measure your performance? Now, I know KPIs is the answer, but more specifically, what markers in your line of work will tell you that you're doing things right or that you're winning, that you're making progress? How will you know that you're making progress? What needs to happen for you to be able to say, okay, this is making sense, this thing that I'm doing right here, let me do a little bit more of this, or this is not making sense or let me kill this off because it's not making sense. And then you can point to something. You can draw a line from your decision of yes, keep doing it, or no, stop doing it. You can draw a line from there to some actual markers, some tangible evidence that you can point to that even someone who doesn't know your work very well could understand, okay, I understand now why you're going to do more of that. I understand now why you're going to do less of that. You need a way of measuring your performance. Now, how do you know what to measure? Because there are a lot of things you could measure. So the question you're going to ask yourself then, going backwards, is what results matter the most to you? What outcomes tell you that you're actually getting to where you want to go? And what is driving that result? So if you say the result that I'm going to measure is the number on a scale because you're trying to lose weight, or maybe you're trying to gain weight, what is driving that result? What drives you losing weight or gaining weight? These are things that you may not have answers to off the top, but you need to go and obtain the answers to these questions. Otherwise, they do not qualify to be your key performance indicators. So if something's going to be a key indicator of your performance, you need to know exactly what it is and exactly where it's coming from and exactly where it is taking you. That's why it's a key performance indicator. If it's not key to your performance, then it shouldn't be a KPI. So how are you going to know what that is? This is the work that you need to do on the back end. Now, in the book Good to Great, Jim Collins, and this is a book that I have mentioned and recommended many times on this show. If it's the first time you heard me say it, then go get it. Again, the book is called Good to Great. It was written for a business audience, specifically for publicly traded companies, or it was written about publicly traded companies, but the principles in the book apply to anyone, even if you are a solopreneur, entrepreneur, small business owner, athlete, school teacher, parent. The principles in the book apply to everyone. So even if you are not working at or a principal at a publicly traded company, which I am not either, you still need to read the book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. Go get the book. You should be ordering it on Amazon or Audible right now as I'm talking. But in that book, Jim Collins explains what he called the Hedgehog Concept. And what the Hedgehog Concept is about is you basically finding out the thing that you do best that also combines with basically a Venn diagram. So you're going to find the intersection of three things. Something that you do better than everybody else out there, that you are also passionate about, and that you can also make money from. That is your Hedgehog Concept. And it's funny because this is something that I asked myself a question about back in 2009, way before, I don't even know when Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, came out, but I know that I read the book. It was probably 2018 or 2019 when I read the book. But a decade before that, I had asked myself the very question that led to my answer to what I now know is the Hedgehog Concept. When I was playing ball, I found myself as a free agent in professional basketball. Didn't know when I was going to get my next job. Thusly, didn't know when I was going to get my next paycheck, at least from playing basketball. But I wanted to get another paycheck, so I asked myself a key question. I asked myself the question that actually combined these three here, the same things that Jim Collins asked. I said, what can I do in which I am, first of all, something that I'm passionate about and I care about, and that was playing basketball. Something I'm also one of the best in the world at, and that was getting on the internet and just putting my ideas and my thoughts out into the world. Even though I wasn't the only person in the world doing it, I know I was pretty good at it, and I had a natural ability just when I got on the camera to express myself in a way that it didn't feel awkward. Even though I'm literally just talking to an inanimate object, I can talk as if I'm talking to people. And combining those two things, my passion and my skill, with something that I can make money from. And when I got the answer to that question, the answer to the question was focus more on building this entity that you have here on the internet, where you have a website and people know your name and you are known for certain topics and people are following you for the basketball and for the mindset stuff, and you're writing about how to play professional basketball overseas, and people just like your personality and your approach to things and how you just give people what they need to hear with no bullshit and no filter. And now we call that a personal brand. But back then we weren't even using that phrase, having a brand. So when I answered this question to, again, now what we know as the Hedgehog Concept, that's when all of this that you know about now, Dre all day, work on your game, all of this stuff came about based on me figuring out my Hedgehog Concept before I knew it was called the Hedgehog Concept. So for you, you need to do the same thing. Your key performance indicators should focus around something at which you have passion, at which you are the best at what you do, and you can make money. You need a combination of the three. You need a combination that involves all three. So if you do something that does not involve all three, then you're not hitting the nail on the head just yet. Now, it doesn't mean that thing can't be involved in what you're doing, but it shouldn't be your key performance indicator. Key performance indicator needs to focus around this Hedgehog Concept. Now, go read the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, because he explains it in much more depth and gives a bunch of examples and more detail than I just gave you right here. And that's why I'm recommending you the book. And I already told you, if you want to hide something from people, put it in the book. So number one thing you can do to get deep information is you need to read. Don't just listen, go read. Point number two, today's topic once again is KPIs, which is how you're going to measure your work. Second thing is, once you figure out what your key performance indicators are, they need to be checked on a regular basis, and your business should be based around those key performance indicators. Everything that you do should be based around your key performance indicators. If they are truly key to your business or key to your life or key to your success, then there is nothing that is more important than those key performance indicators. I mean, that just makes sense, right? If you're a parent, what's the key performance indicator in the relationship between you and your kids? It's probably how much time you spend with your kids, not how much money you give them. It's not how much food you put on their table, even though those things may matter. The key performance indicator is probably, I would guess, how much time you spend with your kids, at least when they're growing up. Now, when they get older and they move out of the house, then you probably can't control it. But during the time they're living under your roof, that's the key performance indicator. If you are running a business, I would guess that one of your key performance indicators is how much money your business is making. I mean, because with the Hedgehog Concept, again, that third point is the economics. It has something to do with money. If you run the business, then money has to be involved. Even if you're a non-profit, a not-for-profit company, you still have to make some money to keep the lights on. You might not be keeping all the money and putting it in your pocket, but there has to be some money being made somehow, some way. So what are the key things that make your business go? And how often are you checking them? These are questions that you should be answering. There needs to be a system for tracking and checking your KPIs and a system for editing your process so that you can reach these KPIs when they're not looking how you want them to look. So if you're not getting the kind of results you want from the key indicators of your business, then that's like a 4-alarm emergency that you probably shouldn't be focusing on anything else until you figure out what the hell is going on in that place. For example, in the human body, you don't have a say over this, but one of your key performance indicators is the health of your lungs and the health of your heart. Because if you stop breathing or your heart stops beating, then I doubt you're going to care too much about who won the basketball game last night, or what politician is going at another politician, or what episode Dre put out on his podcast today. You're probably going to pay attention to that emergency in your body, because if those key performance indicators stop working, then you stop working. So you understand what I mean here when I say key performance indicators. Now, with the human body, these things are involuntary. So for the most part, they happen on their own. But for you, when we talk about your business and your life, these are things that you have some say over and some control over. And if they're key performance indicators, it better be something that you have some say and some control over. Don't let it be something that you don't control, because that doesn't make any sense. How can it be a key performance for your business and you don't even control it? So you need a system for these things. And when they're not working, you need to get on it. When I was playing basketball, for example, one of my key performance indicators was every day when I went into that empty gym to work out on my own, one of my KPIs was how many videos I would record every single day. Now, I figured out a way to make the videos that I was recording and putting on YouTube, I figured out a way to make that material connect with how I actually wanted to work on my game so I can be ready for my next professional basketball season or my next contract, whatever it was going to be. So one of my KPIs was how many videos am I recording each day. So every day when I went in the gym, I knew what I would be recording. I was tracking how much I recorded. I knew exactly what drills I did every single day. And I knew what a good day and a good week were. I knew if I recorded this many, that was a pretty good day. This many, it was an excellent day. This many, maybe my energy just wasn't there. Or maybe I was messing up too much on certain drills, so I had to spend too much time on them. I knew how much time each drill would take. I knew when I was done in the gym each day. So because I knew what my KPIs were, I knew, all right, once I record this many videos and I do this many drills, I know my workout's done for the day, so now I can leave the gym. I get a lot of athletes who would ask me questions around that very topic. Like, Dre, how do I know how much time I should spend working out every day? Should I work out 1 hour? Should I work out 8 hours? I heard Michael Jordan work 10 hours. I heard Kobe trains 15 hours straight. What am I supposed to do, Dre, if I'm supposed to be good? How much time should I spend working out? So the answer is not just what you heard somebody else does or some arbitrary number that someone, even me, wants to hand to you if you were an athlete. The answer is based on what you need to get done. You come into the gym, what do you need to get done? Now, you say you want to make 100 jump shots. Okay, how long does it take you to make 100? It takes you an hour, then your workout should be an hour. It takes you 2 hours, it'll be 2 hours. However long it takes you to get done the work you can do. Now, if you have a limitation, for example, let's say you need to go to work or you have an appointment to get to, and you don't have just any amount of time to be in the gym. You only have 90 minutes. Okay, then the thing is, within 90 minutes, what can you get done? And then you need to hold yourself accountable for getting it done in that period of time, because you have a limitation, which should actually help you in your decision making. But this is an example of a key performance indicator. I knew exactly what I was working on, exactly how I was working on it, and how I was going to get it done on a consistent basis. I knew how much time it would take. So every day when I was coming out of the gym, I knew exactly what to look for and what was coming next. As an entrepreneur today, when it comes to key performance indicators, one of my key performance indicators is I want to know how much money we're making. I want to know how much revenue is coming through the doors every single day. I need to know how much is going out, because just because you sold something doesn't mean it doesn't cost you anything to deliver to your audience. It doesn't mean it doesn't cost you anything to keep your business systems up. What are we paying to any gig workers? What are we paying to staff? What are we paying to freelancers? What are we paying for any type of business operation services? What are we paying for fees? What are we paying on every merchant transaction? We need to know the plus and minus of what's going on in the business as far as the economics go. Again, economics matter any type of business that you're involved in. I want to know how many leads are coming into my business. In other words, how many new people who were not in my world yesterday are now in my world today. And I want that number, I want that to be a pretty healthy number. If that number's not too bulky, then I know I need to do something so I can bring more people into my world, because things are going to move pretty slowly if I'm not bringing fresh blood into my world at all times. And hopefully the number of people in my world is growing every day. So even if some people decide to leave one day, hopefully I'm adding more people than are actually exiting, so that my world is actually growing. I want my world to be growing on a consistent basis. These are just a couple of the KPIs off the top of my head that I'm looking at every single day. I want to know what's going on. I look at these actually more than once over the course of a day. Point number 3. Today's topic again is KPIs, how you are measuring your work. You need a system for how you are actually reaching your key performance indicators. For example, if you're running a business and you say sales are a key performance indicator for you, then my question then is, what is your repeatable, duplicatable system for making sales? Do you have a repeatable, duplicatable system that you know works for making sales? That you know when you take this action, it leads to this many people seeing or knowing about or hearing about what you're doing, and then this many people are going to buy what you're selling, which means you're going to make this much money. Then it costs you this much to make all this happen, and then your profit is going to be this much. So if I ask you how exactly, if you need to make $1 right now, what will be the process for you making that $1 right now? Do you have a repeatable, duplicatable system for doing so? This is part of your key performance indicator. I mean, if you're going to call something a KPI, there needs to be a system behind it, because if you don't have a system behind something that you say is a key performance indicator, then that means the keys to your performance are based on randomness, which means that's going to lead to a bumpy ride. Let's just call it that. If you don't have a repeatable, duplicatable system for making sales, how can your sales be a key performance indicator? I mean, you don't have a strategy for getting them. So why would you make that a key indicator of your business if you only have a strategy for working it? How can you base your performance on something that you don't have a process for reaching? I've had many people tell me that they want to achieve success based on some measure that they have decided on. They decided I want to do X or Y or Z. And then I ask them, okay, what's your process for getting there? I understand what you want to do. Now my question is, what is your process for creating this outcome on a consistent basis? And often, unfortunately, they don't have an answer to the question. Now, I suggest that it is better for those who are in this position to work backwards. Ask yourself what you're actually good at, what resources are at your disposal, and what can you produce given your abilities and the resources at hand? What can you produce on a consistent basis, on a repeatable, duplicatable basis, to the point that maybe you can show someone else how to do it and they can do the exact same thing that you do and produce the exact same result with your resources. If you don't have an answer to this, you may not even be able to name a key performance indicator for your business just yet. And that doesn't mean all hope is lost. I mean, everybody has to start somewhere. There is help that can be gotten for you. This is why I opened up my 3rd Day Mastermind, so I can help business professionals, I can help entrepreneurs, or anyone who's looking to achieve some level of performance in some area. Maybe it's something personal, maybe it's something business-wise, maybe it's a combination of both, maybe there are multiple things that you want to achieve, but you need to have a way of measuring, and you need a consistent strategy for getting there. And sometimes you might swap strategies over time. You may not use the same strategy at all times. Sometimes the strategy is working for a while, then it's not working anymore. Or maybe some of the tactics within that strategy no longer work, and you have to swap tactics and figure out what's going to work. Or maybe you have moved to a different space, so the strategy that worked over there is not going to work over here. So you can make adjustments along the way, but you need to have a strategy that you are working. I talked about the 3-step framework of achievement in episode 1921. We talked mindset, strategy, and tactics. Many people get buried down in the tactics and think that they're being strategic just because their tactics happen to be working right now. There's a big difference between tactics and strategy. How do you know that you have a strategy in place? It's because you can swap out the tactics, but the strategy is still being implemented the exact same way. And again, in 3rd Day Mastermind, I help coach people on this who are serious about really making sure that you have some repeatable, duplicatable processes in place for your business and the way that you execute. Let's recap today's class, which is KPIs, how you will measure your work. I touched on this a lot of times and have been using them for a long time before I even started calling them this, but now we got a full masterclass on the topic, so I'm officially on the record. Point number 1, how do you measure your performance? What markers are telling you that you are winning? What tells you that you are doing things right? What matters the most? And what drives those results? In the book Good to Great, Jim Collins explains the Hedgehog Concept. Read that book so you can understand it deeply and that you can start using it. Is a intersection of what you're passionate, what you're passionate about, what you are best at, and something that actually drives your economic engine. In other words, it makes you enough money for you to be satisfied, to sustain, to do what you need to do. Your KPIs should focus around your hedgehog concept. Point number 2, your KPIs should be checked on a regular basis, and your business should be based around your KPIs. If they're truly key, then there is nothing else more important than that. And if something's not working for one of your KPIs, you shouldn't be focusing on anything else until you get that KPI working the way it's supposed to. Just like if your lungs or your heart wasn't working in your body, they are key performance indicators to you being alive. Nothing else in your body's not paying attention to anything else until they get those 2 problems solved. You need to treat your KPIs the exact same way. Number 3, you need a system for how you reach your key performance indicators. If sales are a KPI for you, then what is your repeatable, duplicatable system for making sales? If you don't have one, then sales couldn't be a KPI. So anything that's going to be a key performance indicator for you, you need a system for how you actually achieve that outcome. Many people, again, they get buried down in the tactics, like we talked about in episode 1921. And even though your tactics may be working right now, the problem is it's kind of like running on a treadmill, because if and when that tactic stops working, and eventually it will, you don't have a bigger strategy to turn to understand what you can plug in next in that space. And this is where how many people find themselves on this proverbial treadmill of trying one thing. It may work for a while, may not work, try the next thing. That may work, may not work, try the next thing. And they're just doing these things over and over again, thinking that this is how it's supposed to be. And this is how people get into the position where they feel like they're always hustling, grinding all the time, because there's no strategy behind what they're doing, because they don't understand the mindset of putting this whole ecosystem in place. And it starts with the way that you think, then it goes to your strategizing, then lastly it goes to the tactics. Unfortunately, many people do this backwards. That's why I had the Thursday Mastermind open, so I can help you on this, so you don't have to go through the years of trial and error that many of us had to go through to figure it out on our own. We can shorten your learning curve. But if you want to do it on your own, hey, you can take the next 10 to 15 years to figure it out. If you do, hopefully you do, but why don't we shorten your learning curve and make it happen a lot faster? But anyway, that's at the Third Day Mastermind. You can sign up for a call to talk to me about that. I vet everybody who comes in. Nobody can just walk into my mastermind or to be coached by me. You have to speak to me first. The call's free. It's at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Click the button that says join the mastermind. We will set up a call, find out where you're at, where you want to go, and how I could possibly help. And once you send me a text, tell me the best insight you got from today's masterclass. My number is 305-384-6894, 305-384-6894. And when you text me, also, you'll get my daily motivation text every morning. Work on your game. Dre all day.